Complete darkness engulfed Sha Xing and Xian Yue's worlds. Even the divine blaze of the heavenly wolf and the beautiful radiance of the purple pylon were devoured by the impossibly thick and anomalous darkness completely. They weren't worried, though. If this darkness only muted their five senses, then the most it could do was astonish them for an instant. The next moment, an involuntary shudder coursed through their souls. The soul aura they had projected beyond their physical bodies, and the soul strings that seamlessly linked them together, were suddenly under attack, as if countless pitch-black, demonic blades and saws were tearing and sawing at them. By the time terrific soul pain and fear gripped them, before they could even react to the sudden attack, the link between them had already been violently severed. Buzzing echoed throughout their soul seas before everything plummeted into borderless darkness. If Sha Xing or Xian Yue had experienced the original abyss that severs the night without the other, assuming that it was the first time they ever encountered this technique, and assuming that they were completely caught off guard, then it still wouldn't be a crippling blow. At worst, they would lose their five senses for several breaths, and their minds would turn blank for several instants. In a straight fight, the technique would cost them dearly, but it would not kill them. However, 2/5 of the perfect harmony between the star Divine Sun and the moon Divine Sun was founded on profound energy and aura, and the rest was their soul auras. When their soul auras were perfectly synchronized, each of them was bearing two people's worth of perception. In this state, if they were to lose their link in a completely unexpected and instantaneous fashion, then the soul collapse they received was over twice as severe as a matter of course. As a result, both divine sons lost their consciousness for nearly a full breath. Pan Buweng did not move his feet. All he did was swing Chang Zheng of the silent night and draw a black arc in the air that severed even the darkness. The darkness devoured the light, devoured the aura and soul, devoured all the sounds. As a result, the spectators only saw two bent figures hurtling out of the darkness-filled barrier and hitting the floor in the same stiff fashion. They did not get back up immediately either. They were stiff and frozen like a pair of soulless puppets. Bang! Clang! Two heavy noises followed as the heavenly wolf greatsword and the purple pylon sword flew out of the darkness and stabbed into the floor next to the duo with great accuracy. It was only now that the eyes of the two divine sons regained their clarity and focus and stood up. They instinctively reached out and grabbed their weapons once more, but their bodies and expressions stiffened again when they found themselves staring at the barrier. The darkness faded and Pan Buweng's silhouette re-entered everyone's view. He was still standing there. It was almost as if they hadn't moved a step. For a moment, shocked and frozen, silence encompassed the whole temple. Then it exploded into an uncontrollable uproar like the dissipating darkness. What? What just happened? Did the twin stars just lose instantly? How? What? It looks like the soul connection between the twin stars was instantly severed. That is why they suffered a soul collapse. It was mentioned in the records that dark, profound energy possesses the strongest potency for soul-devouring out of everything. However, the dark, profound arts of the owl butterfly kingdom of God clearly exhibited no such characteristics. Forget seeing, I have never even heard of a soul-devouring domain of darkness like Pan Buweng's before. The most terrifying thing about this domain is that it was unleashed almost instantaneously. Forget two youngsters, even this old one would be caught off guard for a bit. Meanwhile, Pan Bujuo had just finished picking up the jaw he had left on the floor. Forcing himself to stay calm, he asked in a low tone, "Father, this isn't our technique at all. What in the abyss is this?" He waited for a moment but received no response. When he finally turned to look at his father, he saw for the first time a true expression of utter shock on his face. When his gaze shifted backward, he saw that every owl butterfly elite was wearing a shocked expression as well. Sha Xing and Xian Yue are out of bounds. Pan Buweng wins. It wasn't until the chief priest declared Pan Buweng's victory that the cacophony was finally settled. While he was announcing, the chief priest's gaze had briefly lingered on his person as well. Clap, clap, clap. It was at this moment that Wushan Xing rose to his feet and clapped his hands. He said, although this was yet another incredibly swift fight, it was no less exquisite and eye-opening than the first one. Even this divine regent must offer my praise. Letter 1D4F, letter 1D4FB, letter 1D486, letter 1D658, letter 1D498, letter 1D4E, letter 1D4FF. Letter 1D658, letter 1D4F8, letter 1D662. As a divine regent, his words were spoken without any veiled meaning or insult. His compliment was wholly unreserved as well. Xing, Yue? He looked at the two divine sons who still couldn't quite process what just happened. From the day you achieved perfect harmony, you have never suffered defeat in the hands of an opponent who is one minor level above you. But today, you have lost to an opponent at the same cultivation level as you in one breath. Do you think that this outcome is unfair? After the heavenly star divine regent's voice dispelled the darkness entrenched in their souls, their expressions gradually turned solemn, and they performed a bow at the same time. No, this disciple accepts this defeat wholeheartedly. This disciple will engrave this defeat into his heart. Admitting defeat without fanfare was, in fact, the best way to pick up one's shattered dignity. This is nothing, Wushan Yue consoled them smilingly. Today's defeat may become the foundation of tomorrow's success. Now come, clear your mind of stray thoughts and concentrate. Everyone's gaze was focused on Pan Buwang. Wushan Xing said frankly, "My immature disciple, Sha Xing, lost sight of himself and insulted divine son Bu Zhu recklessly after achieving a minor victory over him. His mistake has been punished by divine son Buwang. I doubt he will forget this slap to the face even after many years. I hereby offer my congratulations to the Prey Eternal Divine Regent and Owl Butterfly Kingdom of God. Such an excellent God-bearer is rare, even if you search throughout the history of the Abyss. Do color me envious." Although Sha Xing had defeated and humiliated Pan Buzuo in combat, Pan Buwang had instantly defeated Sha Xing in return. This alone had earned back the face the Owl Butterfly Kingdom of God had lost several-fold. But his feat of defeating the twin stars alone, without exaggeration, as the weakest kingdom of God of the six, they had never produced a single divine child who could measure up to even a sliver of what Pan Buwang had achieved today. This was easily the greatest show darkness had put on this stage so far. And yet not a single man or woman in the Owl Butterfly Kingdom of God could wear a smile on their faces. Their pride and excitement should be bursting right now, and yet not an ounce could be seen anywhere. The Prey Eternal Divine Regent's reply was unbelievably stiff as well. "You exaggerate, Heavenly Star Divine Regent. Fortune decided to favor us today, that's all." No one was surprised by the Owl Butterfly Kingdom of God's reaction. After all, everyone generally knew what happened during the replacement of a divine child. If Pan Buzuo were the one who achieved this feat, every Owl Butterfly member would probably be screaming themselves hoarse and dancing like no tomorrow, decorum be damned. But Pan Buwang, all they felt from his success was indescribable discomfort. Pan Buzuo was gritting his teeth. He was clearly trying to stay calm and collected, but the uncontrollable, constant twitching of the corners of his mouth betrayed how he really felt. He knew perfectly well what was going to happen. He would still be the Owl Butterfly Divine Son, and Pan Buwang was still going to be the castaway. But after today, not only would Pan Buwang's reputation surpass his, he would become the man's foil, or even laughingstock for a long, long time to come. "Pan Buwang," it was at this moment that the chief priest spoke once more, "you can now choose another person to fight or take a short break." Pan Buwang did not move. He was staring straight ahead. However, the corner of his eye was being drawn uncontrollably toward Shen Wuyi again, and again, and again. "You must withdraw decisively after defeating the Star and Moon Divine Sons. You will not hesitate or dilly-dally, and you will not stir up unnecessary trouble no matter how much you hate Pan Buzuo or how much you wish to kill Shen Wuyi." Master's advice rang inside his soul sea again and again. In the end, he was able to tear the edge of his vision from Shen Wuyi. However, the figure he had just decided to tear away from abruptly appeared in front of him in full. Shen Wuyi herself had entered the barrier to face Pan Buwang. "Shen Wuyi of the Eternal Night Kingdom of God requests your guidance." The celestial-like voice hit him like a hammer. She looked like snow floating under the moon, soaking one to the bone in coldness and desolation. And yet she was also indescribably pure and lofty. When Pan Buwang's eyes met hers, her exquisite countenance and dreamlike aura did not stun him. On the contrary, it very nearly caused him to lose control and reveal the terrible bloodthirst he kept hidden in his marrow. "Withdraw decisively. You will not stir up unnecessary trouble. No matter how much you wish to kill Shen Wuyi, you will not stir up unnecessary trouble. You will not." All 10 of his fingers curled up a little. It wasn't until a few breaths later that they finally relaxed bit by bit. "Apologies," he said in a voice as cool and sonorous as the chime of a night bell, "but I have no reason to fight you, since the rules dictate that the challenged person must accept a challenge or surrender. I choose to surrender." These 4 words were easily the hardest words for any divine son or divine daughter to say in this battle, much less the battle between divine children, and yet they had tumbled out of his mouth as smooth as butter. Not a hint of defiance, hatred, or resentment could be detected in his voice. There was only cool indifference that resembled a cold spring on an autumn night. Shenwu Yi did not respond. The spectators were exchanging looks as well. Yet again, Pan Buweng had surprised them. They could no longer understand or predict Pan Buweng's behavior. Just what on earth was he trying to do? And what in the abyss had happened to him during the years he vanished? The chief priest's gaze settled on Pan Buweng once more. You may receive a wish from the abyssal monarch if you perform splendidly in battle. Are you sure you want to surrender without a fight? The chief priest never wasted his breath, and yet he was encouraging Pan Buweng to keep fighting. Clearly, more than most people at the scene, he understood just how extraordinary Pan Buweng's performance was. Yes, I surrender. However, Pan Buweng did not hesitate for even an instant. While showered by puzzlement and shock from all sides, he gave his answer right after the chief priest had asked him the question. The chief priest stopped trying after that. He announced, Pan Buweng has surrendered the fight. Shenwu Yi wins. Once a participant had lost, they were not allowed to enter the battlefield once more. However, the abyssal monarch's choice was not decided by victory or defeat. Pan Buweng turned around, and it looked like he was going to step out of the barrier. It was at this moment that a voice echoed in everyone's ear, eliminating all noise in Eden's crown and freezing every wisp of aura instantly. Come to me, Pan Buweng. Pan Buweng froze in his tracks and turned completely blank in both expression and gaze. He did not move for a very, very long time, as if someone had cast a freezing spell on him. Eden's crown itself was so silent that a pin drop could be heard. Everyone at the scene, from the highest divine regent to the youngest profound practitioner, was frozen as well. No one dared to say a word, even though their hearts were thudding like drumbeats. Pan Bujuo was utterly speechless. He looked like his soul had been stolen from him. However, the eternal divine regent's shock and befuddlement were almost 10 times greater than his. It was only now that Pan Buweng seemingly regained his senses and forced the word out of his mouth. Then, he turned around and began walking toward the abyssal monarch. His footsteps were slow and cautious, as if he was treading on the edge of a cloud belonging only in the dream world. For the longest time, the abyssal monarch had only played the role of a spectator in the battle between divine children. Forget speaking, his expression hadn't so much as twitched even once throughout the event. Not a single time. But today, he spoke up and addressed Pan Buweng directly. No one dared to guess what this could mean. Finally, while everyone's gaze was glued to his person, Pan Buweng arrived before the abyssal monarch and dropped to his knees. The abyssal monarch descended from the sky and landed just one step away from Pan Buweng. Then he extended a hand that looked like sacred jade and flowed with indistinct divine light, and touched Pan Buweng on the shoulder. The contact only lasted a moment before he pulled away. Pan Buweng, he addressed the young man directly. Although it was the voice of the monarch, it sounded as relaxing, elegant, and gentle as the sound of heated jades striking against each other. If it is okay with you, can you tell me where you obtained the sole domain of darkness you just used? He did not order. He specifically said, if it is okay with you, and gave Pan Buweng the option to say no. After that, the world fell so utterly silent it was as if everyone had forgotten how to breathe. Pan Buweng lifted his head slightly. Although he did not avoid the abyssal monarch's gaze, he didn't dare to meet it directly as he was a junior. I learned it myself, Your Majesty. He did not refuse to answer, and the answer he gave stunned everyone. If he really learned and invented it on his own, then just how shocking was his natural talent for darkness that he could create a surprise move that instantly defeated the twin stars. As he said this, an overwhelming sense of sorrow and melancholy, one that he was clearly having difficulty suppressing and was only spiraling out of control over time, flowed out of Pan Buweng. Fog Monarch, before you enter the Pure Land, there is one thing you must mentally prepare yourself for, Buweng. After you defeat the Star and Moon Divine Sons, there is a chance the Abyssal Monarch may set his gaze on you and ask you about the origins of your original abyss that severs the night. Buweng, this disciple dares not question your words, Master. But if I may speak up, the Abyssal Monarch has never shown interest even when a kingdom of God is in peril, and divine regents were replaced with little warning. This disciple just can't see him paying me any, Fog Monarch. I only require your obedience, Buweng, as you command, Master. Fog Monarch. Assuming this scenario takes place, you know what to say, don't you? Buwang. I have learned it myself during my darkest moments. But how can my lie possibly fool the Abyssal Monarch? Fog Monarch. If falsehood isn't enough, then self-destruction will do. Buwang. I request your guidance, Master. Fog Monarch. Think of your mother, think of Shen Wuqing, think about everything you have lost. Think about your pain, your sorrow, your defiance, your despair. Let it consume your soul until all other emotions are blotted out, including your lies. Pan Buwang's fingers curled unconsciously, and his body trembled uncontrollably as the all-too-painful memories spread inside his soul sea. Buwang lost his mother, his beloved mother, and so fell into gray despair for a time. I once traveled to Dreamweaver wishing only to fall into an eternal dream, but was cast out instead. So I roamed the endless fog. His voice grew hoarse, and every word seemed to be infused with tangible despair that stabbed at every listener's soul. One time I was near death in the endless fog. In my dreams, I wished only to fall to slumber within the eternal darkness. When I awoke, I discovered that I was surrounded by all-consuming darkness that blotted out the sky itself. Only my spear, Chang Zheng of Silent Night, rang and trembled in my hand. It pulled me back from the eternal night like my mother's hand. As if reborn, I rose to my feet and cut the night with my spear. At that moment, I experienced enlightenment and named the technique, Original Abyss that severs the night. Everyone knew more or less what had happened to Pan Buwang. It was clear he was doing his utmost to control his emotions before the Abyssal Monarch. Still, the bone-piercing despair, the heart-searing pain, the blood-soaked words, all of it made them feel deep sympathy for him. The original abyss that severs the night, an enlightenment he experienced while being moments away from soul death. No wonder it possessed such potent soul-devouring ability. The Abyssal Monarch nodded slightly and raised his hand. Then he lightly tapped Pan Buwang twice on the shoulder. This was the monarch's way of comforting his subject, a favor countless divine children could not even dream of having. It made Pan Yusheng's eyebrows jump like crazy, and every man and woman of Owl Butterfly felt like a storm was churning inside their heart. Then, the Abyssal Monarch's following words flipped their world upside down. This lone one once thought that it's impossible for this world to birth a pure child of darkness anymore. To think that this impossible wish of mine would be fulfilled in this era.